With that as the start, you can tell how much fun I'm going to be having with this. Then again, I chose to review this movie, but saying that would ruin the absolutely unique joke of me being forced to review this. God, that's cringe. Moving on, so The Killing Joke. Popular comic story by no one's favorite cryptid, Alan Moore, that depicts the Dark Knight facing off the most sadistic Joker plot at that time. So popular, in fact, that DC decided to make it a part of their timeline of their constantly resetting universe. It's been homaged in the form of various comics and games, a few Batman movies were inspired by it, and it finally got an animated adaptation in 2016, which is what I'll be talking about today. So is it a good movie, or a bad one like so many others say? Well, actually, let's dive into the story first before I open that can of worms. Well, I say that, but one of the big cans of worms this movie has is its fucking prologue. A story that wasn't in the original book, and many fans complained about it being too long, and also for having a scene which I'll discuss later.
Can't say much for this volume's condition. I mean, there's a hole in the jacket.
Bitch, there's more holes in your gun than her fucking jacket here! So the prologue story is set a week before The Killing Joke. Barbara and Bruce are dealing with a stupid twink with zero Riz and his gang, while the two are also dealing with their own problems as a team/his friends. After the fuckboy gets jailed, Barbs quits being Batgirl, and after the prologue ends and the plot begins, the Joker hands a pink slip to Batgirl's mobility, kidnapping Gordon, and trying to make him snap because he believes that anyone can go insane with just one bad day. Of course, that's proven wrong, and the movie ends with Batman trying to help Joker get off this path, but failing since Joker feels he's too far gone, the Joker making one last joke, and Batman strangling Joker. Also, Batgirl turns an Oracle in the post-credits scene, which is a neat addition since it gave Barbara something to do after getting shot. Too bad that's all she gets of importance in this movie after Joker shoots her. Well, I guess outside of her being in the hospital, it's more so for narrative's sake though, so. But yeah, as a story, it works for the most part. It's paced decently well, the duality of Batman and Joker and how necessary the two are for each other is a plot point handled well that has a pretty good payoff at the end. Throughout the main story, Batman makes it clear that eventually the two will have a fight that results in one of them killing the other. But Batman wants to try and help Joker to prevent that scenario from happening. Even after his partner gets crippled, his close friend is traumatized and kidnapped, not in that order but still, he still wants to rehabilitate Joker to prevent that scenario of one of them killing each other. And I think that's a good depiction of Batman. When you put aside the memes of him beating up the lower class, Batman as a character just wants to help people and also prevent what happened to him as a child from happening to anyone else. It's just that sometimes he has to use fear to get that message through to them. And this version of Batman does exactly that. And that's great, because at his core, Batman is supposed to be a hero, and this version nails that really damn well. I also like this version of the Joker. Well, it's good to see the silly but chaotic nature the Joker can bring to the screen at points, like in Batman TAS as well as The Batman, the animated series, not the movie. It's rare to see a Joker that is still silly, but scary at the same time. This one is not afraid to kill a good amount of people to get his message across. This one can put on a big old smile but still look incredibly fucking terrifying. He's not my favorite Joker, not by a long shot since I prefer the more so silly but chaotic Jokers by comparison, but this one still is an effective Joker to me as he's intimidating but can also be really silly at points. Like having this big battle in a carnival, having a musical number with members of his fucking circus troupe, etc. I'm also a sucker for the art style. While it doesn't match Alan Moore's aesthetic, I still like the darker color palette to reflect the darker story, the character models are good, the backgrounds and lighting are good, even the animation is pretty good from a fluidity standpoint. So, now that I've covered the main elements of the movie, there is three main talking points that I want to talk about, because I see a lot of these when the film is discussed online. Those three being the relationship between Bruce and Barbara, the scene where Joker allegedly essays Barbs, we'll get to that in a bit, as well as the prologue itself. Now, as you know, I'm not shy of expressing my opinion, for better or worse, so here's my thoughts on these 3 points, starting with the last one, the prologue. So, a lot of people complain about the prologue taking so long, and that it's not very good, as well as the sex scene between Bruce and Barbs that occurs in said prologue. What do I personally think of it? Honestly, I think the prologue works fine enough for the most part. It gives us time to empathize with Barbs before Joker shoots her, making the scene all the more impactful since we get to spend a lot more time with this character when compared to the original story. Some of the new characters are fine in concept, and the pacing/story of it works for the most part. At least to me. As for the length, I can kind of understand the complaints, but I don't fully agree with it since it's only 28 minutes out of 76 minutes, around 36% or slightly over a third of the movie, effectively making it the first act, and as a result, it allows the scene where Barbara gets shot to serve as a damn strong gut punch that is the opening of Act 2. Again, I fully get the complaints of it being too long. I just don't agree with it. But one thing I do agree on is that the relationship between Bruce and Barb is not a good one. And the film agrees with that. The film makes it very clear that this relationship is not meant to be a good one. The two are constantly distant from the other, either from a physical or emotional level, and Batman makes it clear that she views this as more so a game, and not a serious thing like he does, showing the gap in not only experience, but also maturity. This is actually a pretty common thing with Bruce Timm's work and involves these two as an item. It never works out, and it always ends badly. Now, there's a claim out there that Bruce likes to ship these characters, but considering how every time he does this it ends badly, I don't think he likes to ship them. I think he just likes telling the story about how it's a bad idea. Why does he do so? Well, why do most authors write their stories? Because they have an idea they want to express or a story they want to talk about. Now, some might argue that, oh, it's executive meddling that is the reason for the ship not getting anywhere. But you think after the second try, WB would just tell Bruce Timm to fuck off with making these two a couple and just never try it again? But they didn't. And there's no news articles or interviews saying that they were against it or that it was planned for these two to be an item/couple. So I don't buy the claim that he ships the two. He just likes to tell the story about why this is a bad idea. Now, some might ask what I mean. After all, isn't Bruce Timm the one who created this ship in the first place? Well, no. In fact, this happened many times in the comics, where Barbara was either dating Bruce or even Clark Kent. Hell, Bruce and Barbara's ages have constantly flip-flopped over the decades that many associate Bruce as being many decades older than Barbara, who's closer to Dick's age when, no. Bruce and Barbara were originally closer in age. We see this with examples like Barbara working as a librarian, her being in her mid-20s and the like, and Bruce being closer to 30. It's a little bit closer in terms of their ages. If anything, Dick got aged up a decent amount to make the ship between him and Barbara a lot less creepy. So yeah, this was common back in the older comics, and going off the writing of this movie, Batman Beyond, and its comic of that, Bruce Timm didn't like this ship and wanted to showcase why it'd be a terrible one in his works. The point I'm trying to make isn't that you should like this ship. I don't like this ship either. I fucking despise it. The point I am trying to make, however, is that Bruce Timm, going off of these 3 attempts, does not like it either. He just likes telling the story of why it doesn't work. At least going off of the analysis I did from these 3. Hell, even in the sex scene that everyone talks about, which is also fucking weird, don't get me wrong, Batman is fucking confused as to what's going on, and he hesitates before going along with it. And as a result, he tries to ghost Batgirl after it happens, showcasing that it wasn't a good thing for him. And actually, wait a minute. The two were arguing and fighting earlier, both verbally and physically. Batgirl's on top of Batman, who has no reaction. She kisses him, and Batman's confused, hesitating for going along with it, and is clearly not happy with it afterwards. Isn't there a legal term for that? 'Cause I feel like there's a term for that. Speaking of which, let's address the elephant in the room. The alleged essay of Barbara by the Joker. So, did he do it? Well, if we go off some basic definitions of essay, the crime includes sodomy, oral or anal sexual acts, child molestation, incest, fondling, and attempted rape. If we go off that, then yes. Yes, he did, by stripping her of all her clothing and taking sexual pictures of her without consent. That shit is fucked up, and even if that was the point, it doesn't mean I have to like it, and I absolutely don't here. It's genuinely uncomfortable to see, and I'm not even the fucking character this is happening to. Did this need to be included in an attempt to break Gordon? No. There could have been other ways to do so that didn't involve sexual assault, but does it drag the film down a substantial amount? No, because it accomplishes the task of trying to break Gordon, even if I don't fucking like it and I hate it. But it doesn't drag it down substantially. It's a blemish. It's a fucking annoying blemish, but a blemish nonetheless. However, there was a blotted out portion in that definition I gave that some people have also claimed, so let's get into that. So, reading the full sentence uncensored, we have, the crime includes forced sexual intercourse, rape, sodomy, oral or anal sexual acts, child molestation, incest, fondling, and attempted rape. So I already made a case of how Joker did S.A. Barbara, but did he also rape her? To be brutally honest, no. I don't think so. Not only because he wasn't in any of the photos taken, it would have also been incredibly blurry images if he did try that, since his guards were taking Gordon away, leaving him as the only cameraman in the room. Barbara also makes no comments about Joker doing that deed when she is talking to Batman or the medic. No one even addresses it in the film. And considering this movie is rated R, they could have easily stated that happened if it did. But they didn't. And maybe it's just me, but that doesn't suit Joker in terms of actions. Yes, he's killed. He drove people insane with his gas. He's tortured and abused people. But his whole thing is chaos and crime. How does something as primitive and vile as rape fit into the Joker's MO of chaos and crime? It doesn't. That's why he never crosses that line in most stories. He has standards. Twisted fucking standards. but still standards. The dude even hates Nazis, so he has some fucking standards, and I really, really doubt raping someone would be something he thinks is okay. Now, if only some people realize that. It's like the writers completely missed the fucking point of his character. Anyways, let's just talk about the VAs to just wipe that taste out of my mouth real quick, and then I'm gonna call it here. Vocal performances are really good across the board. Of course, you got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill bringing in a great performance like always. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. But Tara Strong brings in a really good performance as Batgirl. It's almost like she can be a good actress or something when she's not being a piece of fucking garbage. Anyways, the rest of the cast is also pretty damn good in terms of vocal performances. I'm a sucker for John DiMaggio's performances. Robin Downs is always a treat. Brian George brings in a good performance as Alfred, etc. And even the rest of the audio element like background music is pretty good. So yeah, while this movie does have some issues, very noticeable issues by the way, I think it's still a great movie overall that does a pretty good job at adapting the original comic from all those years ago. It's not the best Batman movie, not by a long shot, but it's also not the worst by a long shot. It's like 70% for me, once I dust off all the nasty fucking gunk this film has. So that concludes this review. I'm David Grimm, and thank you for watching.